I'd like to call the February 11th, 2025 council meeting to order. We'll start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence to remember the service and sacrifices of the armed service members who protect our nation and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freelander.
Here.
Councilman Sackett.
Here.
Councilman Quinn.
Here.
Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilwoman Noon. Here. Councilman Salberg.
Here.
Councilman Wojtovich.
Here.
Council Vice President Brooks. Here. Council President Marsden.
Here. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and the official newspapers for the Township of Rockaway. Notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township, the Township website, and notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk. Before we get going, I'd like to give a couple of minutes to Lisa Salberg to discuss and talk about HCMA.
Hello, everybody. It's been a long time. This is not my real voice. I'm borrowing it from somebody else. I'm not contagious. This is the remnants of the flu. May I encourage you all to get your flu shots. So back in 1995, my sister Lori passed away from sudden cardiac arrest due to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. HCM is a genetic heart muscle disorder that affects 1 in 250 worldwide. Back in 1953, my grandfather, who lived right here on Green Pond Road, had a sudden cardiac arrest at the age of 42. In retrospect, that was the first sign in our family that there was a problem, and it all kind of started here in Rockaway. After my grandfather's death, there wasn't much to be done. CPR wasn't even developed yet. After my sister's death in 1995, we came to the town council at that point, and we asked for more AEDs on ambulances. And within 6 months of her death, we had AEDs on ambulances. Within a few weeks of that, or months of that, we went to the schools and we asked for AEDs in the schools. This was 1999. This was way ahead of the curve. During this time, we started as a family, an organization, which is a 501c3. We've been in existence now for 29 years. The first couple of years, we were super small and really tiny. And now we have a nice office out on Ford Road. I'm across the street from Rockaway. I'm in Denville. But now we have 15 staff and contractors, and we are working both in the United States and abroad. We now have 56 HCMA recognized centers of excellence throughout the United States, and I just got back from a trip from Mexico where we are going to be developing out the Latin American experience with HCM, and we have just rebranded all of our material to bilingual Spanish, English, and Portuguese to reach the South American population. I'm also working in Europe, Australia, and where else? India, to develop what we're calling HCMAI, which is our international outreach. Every year now in February, we know it's Heart Month and also Black History Month, but I'm here to talk about Heart Month. And the last Wednesday of February is HCM Awareness Day. We have proclamations, laws, or resolutions currently in 26 states for 2025's HCM Awareness Day, and we are working on legislation in 6 states to require the well-child examination to include cardiac components like we do here in New Jersey. We were the first to do it here in 2015. I am inviting you all on February 26th to our office to see exactly how we do the things that we've done. And I have invitations for you all, which I will hand out over here later. And I encourage everybody to come out and learn about what HCM is, what genetic heart muscle disorders are, and we're even going to do a little drill Dr. Heart, which will teach you the skills that you need to prepare your workplace, your homes, your sports teams for a cardiac emergency. So I hope that you all take a few minutes to come out and see us on February 26th, 66 Ford Road. You'll see all the balloons. It'll probably be a little obnoxious. And Sergio's is catering, and there'll also be some goodies there as well. And this is a family-friendly event. We're going to be doing some arts and crafts, And there's even going to be maybe a raffle or two, but I'll leave that a secret for now. So I hope you can come out and join us as one of your council members, is one of our founding board members and currently our secretary, and I, the founder and vice president of the board. We really want to let you know what we're doing and how what we're doing here in Rockaway is really reaching the world. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks, Joe.
Just as an aside to that, and I know I don't have to tell you, but this council has always, been a big supporter, and this council is responsible for placing 17 AEDs in every one of our.
Say it loud.
We are responsible.
17 AEDs?
We have placed 17 AEDs at every one of our public recreation facilities.
And we also have a town ordinance that requires AEDs in buildings that have over 300 visitors a day.
So, and this all happened over the last couple of years. So again, this council is responsible for that. So again, thanks to everybody here, and we are on board.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes from the January 21st Township Council meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freelander.
Yes.
Councilman Sackett.
Yes.
Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noon.
Yes.
Councilman Salberg.
Yes.
Councilman Vojtovich.
Yes.
Council Vice President Brooks.
Yes.
Council President Morrison.
Yes, that is 9 yeses, motion passes. Okay, we have 2 ordinances for introduction today. Now, normally when we do an ordinance for introduction, there is no discussion on it, and we just go through them and vote. The first ordinance is about the raising and keeping of chickens. And I know there's a lot of thoughts about this on both sides of the discussion. So for this ordinance, I am going to open to council and administration for comments. We will start with Mr. Yachafana.
Thank you, Council President. This ordinance is on for reintroduction. I believe the last time it was November, but the better practice is to, if you're breaching a calendar year, the better practice is to reintroduce an ordinance in the new calendar year. So that's why it's on for reintroduction. When the ordinance was originally on for introduction and passed at that time, considered consistent with required practice, it was passed over to the Planning Board for review and comment. The Planning Board, courtesy of a memo from our planner, Dave Novak, came back to the council with basically a single suggestion, and that suggestion was to provide for what I'm going to call a minimum lot size in the ordinance. The way the ordinance is currently structured, it allocates the number of chickens that are acceptable based upon the lot size. Logically, which I'm pleased to say the ordinance does, the bigger the lot, the more chickens property owners are entitled to have. When you look at our zone format, it really works out the same way, so that specification of a minimum lot size in the ordinance is not really required. Honestly, I didn't attend the planning board session when this ordinance was considered, and I usually don't do those things. But, so I can't really speak to the issue of whether or not the planning board was aware of how the ordinance was structured and why it was structured that way. Inserting a minimum lot size requirement in the ordinance is no big deal. However, it would be a substantive amendment, and that would require the amendment to be made, forwarded around, and then placed for reintroduction. If that's the council's preference, it can certainly be done by the next meeting. It would not be necessary to re-forward it to the planning board, because all we'd be doing, if the council wants to proceed in that fashion, is to insert the amendment that the planning board requested. Alternatively, the council, in its power and discretion, can vote to disregard the recommendation of the planning board because of the way the ordinance really is structured, which essentially has the same effect, but I'll leave that to the council.
Okay, so the way I'd like to approach this is, I know a lot of people, a lot of us have some comments that we want to make. So what we'll do is I'll make a couple comments and we'll just go from one side down to the other, if that's okay, and then we'll open it back up, if that works for you guys. So to sum it up, the ordinance as it's written is very robust in the rules. So what we're trying to avoid is, somebody with, for instance, a very, very small lot size in White Meadow Lake, from bringing in a large flock of chickens, right? So it, depending on the lot size, will determine how many chickens you can have. Now, part of that determination also requires certain, can we please quiet down? That's okay. So what the ordinance calls for is, depending on the lot size, will determine how many chickens you can have. Then how many chickens you have will determine the size of the pen or the coop, that you need. Now, through the nature of the setbacks and the size required for X amount of chickens, most of the small lots would be excluded from having chickens anyway, right? So like Mr. Iacofano said, in lieu of eliminating or starting at a certain lot size and going up, the ordinance as it's written today essentially does the same thing. Okay, so if you require a coop of, 20 by 25 and it exceeds the setbacks allowed, you can't have chickens, right? Especially with the cost of eggs nowadays, you could get, 2 chickens for less than cost for a dozen eggs, and then you can have all the eggs you want. The other part I'll say is this has been bouncing back and forth for 6 months. Right, we've spoken about this. The ordinance committee reviewed it and approved the ordinance, or approved putting the ordinance forward. It went to the planning board. I never received a memo back from the planning board. All right, and I think we started this in October, right? So my personal feeling is that due to the fact that the ordinance gives the planning board essentially what they're looking for anyway, that, that's my opinion on it. So we can we'll start in this end, and we'll start with Councilman Quinn.
So, being a representative for the planning board, I know that they wanted to have delineation for the size of the acreage for chickens. And that's why when John said he got the memo, that I would like to have that put into the file and into the ordinance. I know original ordinance was written and we looked at it and it looked fine, but then the planning board came back with this change, and it makes sense not to confuse the residents, because you're going to open this up and you're going to get people from White Meadow coming in that have an undersized lot looking to get chickens. And it's just going to create, I think, an administrative nightmare for the town. If we limit it and put it in hard language, it makes more sense to me. So I would like to put this off until the next meeting and have John redo it so that it has that in it, and then we'll put it in for us to vote on. So that would be my motion if...
We're not making motions on it right now, it's just open for discussion.
That's my discussion.
Okay. Anything more? Councilman Quinn, are you good?
I'm good.
All right, Councilman Sackett.
Thank you, Council President. Just, my concern is about the enforcement issue. I know when we passed the deer ordinance, had a lot of residents reaching out that the enforcement was a problem, and that's a concern I see with this ordinance is enforcement again. Thank you.
Let's go around first, and then
All
we'll
right.
hit it again. Mr. Salper,
No additional comment.
Councilman Matovich,
I have no comment.
Councilwoman Brooks.
So I have to agree with Jonathan about enforcement. I'd like to hear, first off, if the planner came back with a memo and any type of recommendation, I wish we would have seen it prior, because I think that's important. He's kind of an expert. We have them in place to do those things. So I agree that I think the minimum lot size based on his recommendation is highly important. I also have concerns about enforcement. I'd also like to hear possible feedback and/or concerns from the health department. Just again, on enforcement, I'm looking at the ordinance and I had circled just even the death and disposal portion, like, seems like a lot of work on the township's part in terms of whatever, and if a chicken, this isn't like a dog that's being licensed, is every chicken's leg gonna be tagged, and if it's running loose, are we gonna be able to say, oh, that's Charlie's chicken? My dog is licensed, right, so if he's loose, Danny's gonna pick him up and know where to bring him back, or who to call, right, so, there's an aspect of that. So I have a lot of concerns about it, just in terms of the health, safety, and enforcement of it all.
Councilwoman Noon?
I agree with Councilman Quinn and with the concerns. I think we have the planning board for a reason, and I think we should have taken their considerations or recommendations into considerations and have it rewritten.
Councilman Brooks?
No comment.
Councilman Freeland?
Well, I kind of agree with Councilman Quinn and the rest. When I saw this, to introduce it when it's not complete, you're just spinning wheels. You're better off getting it done the right way and then introducing it. Why introduce something that it's not going to be done? I state with Jack that I think we should pull this until it's corrected and done the right way, and then introduce it.
Okay, it's not that it's not complete, it's that the planning board had recommendations which never made it back to this council over the course of 6 months. As far as enforcement's concerned, we do collect, there's gonna be a permit fee for this, I would assume, right? So if you need a permit, and there's a fee associated with that, right? So you are talking about revenue, and something else too is my personal feeling is I wouldn't hold off introducing something for fear that we think the township administration wouldn't enforce it. Like we would never put in a police ordinance because we don't think that, the chief and his people couldn't enforce it. So, Mr. Quinn?
And then there's the issue of bird flu right now, which is big with the poultry, and it's also gone to geese and other people, other animals too. So is our health department going to go around checking all these chickens to make sure they don't have bird flu? That's a concern I have also. All right?
Mr. Tabbitt, I don't know if you're prepared to answer. How many cases of bird flu have been found in private residences so far?
Nationally since March 24th of last year, 68 human cases, 1 human death.
68 cases nationwide?
Yes, human cases, but it's not transmittable yet. I say yet, semi-close.
Your mic's not working, I'm sorry.
This now it's working.
That's better.
Yeah, 68 illnesses and 1 death nationally. But for public health concerns, the concern is, just as with any pandemic, is if and when the pathogen can be transmitted not from a chicken to a human by incidental exposure or close contact, but when it mutates and can become transmissible person to person, which does happen in pandemic events. So, but those are the numbers.
Being that you are a health officer, do you have any other comments that you wish to make towards this?
I share some of the concerns expressed about avian influenza. It's kind of blown up in terms of contact from the state health department and the CDC, but again, some of that is really just in reference to what could be, not necessarily in reference to what presently is. So I have concerns that a health officer typically would, and I can furnish information if anybody on the governing body is interested in the data or the current status. Council President.
Anybody else from administration have any comments? Yes, Mr. Archibald.
Council President, if I may, just accommodating some of the concerns I've heard stated from the council, I have a suggestion if it meets with the council's approval. Number one, we can certainly find and submit to the council the original letter from the planning board that I believe was drafted by Dave Novak. On the issue of permits and fees, we would normally deal with that by resolution after an ordinance was passed, okay? And that's a relatively simple matter. A council, of course, would have to approve the permit structure and the fees. That could be done by resolution. I spoke with Mr. Tabbitt before the meeting tonight about any, what I'll call bird flu concerns relative to this. Mr. Tabbitt said that if requested, he could put together a short memo to the council on the subject, and I'd recommend that to the council if they are concerned, and quite frankly, I think they should be. Let me suggest that to get all this done, which means inserting the recommendation from the planning board, and we could even do it in a dual track way. I mean, adding the language requested by the planning board is not going to change anything else in the ordinance. It's just going to make its application more specific. So we can redraft the ordinance with the recommended language, provide the council with the original language from the planning board, supplement all of that with a proposed.
Can I ask everybody to please silence their devices?
Supplement all that with a resolution and a fee structure, and Mr. Tabbitt can provide the council with a brief memo on any related health concerns. I'd suggest we put it off until the first meeting in March to give us the opportunity to get all this to the council, and then put it on again for introduction at that point. But that's just my suggestion.
Okay, so Mr. Quinn was going to make a motion before, and we're not there yet, but that is your right to do that. Now, my only stipulation would be is should Mr. Quinn make a motion to table this, and should that pass, I would like to ask.
Additional question.
Oh, 1 second. I would like to ask that if I do not get specifics from the planning board by the next meeting, it's going back on.
That's fine.
It's been long enough.
Yeah, I mean, that single communication, we can get to you very quickly.
Okay. Ms. Brooks?
So I want to clarify, I didn't say anyone would not enforce it. My question simply states, do we have the capacity to enforce some of these very specific things in this ordinance?
Mr. Quinn?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to postpone this until we can get all the information that John had suggested and put it on for March. And Howard, if you don't get the information by the next meeting, go ahead and put it on.
You'll get the resolutions, you'll get the recommendation of the planning board before the next meeting. Everything else, if we're going to put it on again for introduction, I'd suggest the first meeting next month.
Yeah, listen, if we're going to do this, we've had long enough. If we're going to get the recommendations and rewrite the ordinance, then I'd like it to be at our next meeting.
Okay.
All right, there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Quinn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freelander.
Yes.
Councilman Sackett.
Yes.
Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Noon.
Yes.
Councilman Salberg.
Yes.
Councilman Wojtovich.
I think we've been dealing with this ordinance long enough, no.
Council Vice President Brooks.
No.
Council President Morrison.
No. So that's 5 yeses, check my math, 5 yeses, 3 noes, 1 abstention.
Correct.
Okay, so this will be pulled for the next meeting. Again, I'd ask administration or clerk to make sure that this is presented at the next meeting for a vote. Okay, moving on. Agenda O2502, an ordinance amending Chapter 54 entitled Land Use and Development of the Code of the Township of Rockaway, creating a new section 54-30.71 entitled RMFO-12B Hospitality and Affordable Multifamily Residential Overlay District. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freelander.
Yes.
Councilman Sackett.
Yes.
Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noon.
Yes.
Councilman Salberg.
Yes.
Councilman Wojtovich.
Yes.
Council Vice President Brooks.
Yes.
Council President Morrison.
Yes, it's 9 yeses, motion passes.
And Council President, this will need to be referred to the planning board for their next meeting, which I believe is in early March. Not so early March.
Who scheduled that?
What, St. Patrick's Day or the meeting?
Putting the meeting on St. Patrick's Day.
It definitely wasn't an Irish person.
Okay, consent agenda. R25-35, R25-36, R25-37. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Before we vote on it, I just wanted to at least give the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to put you on the spot, but R25-35 is a pretty substantial resolution that I think you should talk about.
Yeah, so the resolution is for the new lease with the landowner of Norway Field, that they just purchased it, a Ukrainian soccer organization from the Norbu Lodge. We've been negotiating with them for the past several months, and we were able to basically get soccer the use of the field they have today. Not basically, we're able to get them the use of the field they have today. Some of the time switched up a little bit, but they were, my conversations with soccer, they were more than satisfied with the terms of the lease. And so it was a lot of work. Carl Perone put in a lot of effort into going back and forth with their attorney, and I think it's a big win for the township and the soccer program that we're still going to be able to use that field.
Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freelander.
Yes.
Councilman Sackett.
Yes.
Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Brooks.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noon.
Yes.
Councilman Salberg.
Yes.
Councilman Vojtovich.
Yes.
Council Vice President Brooks.
Yes.
Council President Morrison.
Yes, it's 9 yeses, motion passes. Okay, moving on to the open to the public portion. Before opening the public portion of this meeting, I want to remind everybody of the rules that apply to anyone who wants to address the council. Any member of the public wishing to address the council will have 3 minutes to do so. While an extension of time may be requested, it should not be assumed that an extension of time will be granted. While addressing the council, members of the public may not address or question any individual council member. If anyone addressing the council violates these rules or conducts themselves inappropriately, their speaking opportunity will be terminated, and they will be instructed to return to their seat. A refusal to comply will result in removal from the room. Members of the public in attendance may not make comments from the audience without recognition by the chair. Persons doing so will be subject to removal from the room. As council president, I have tremendous respect for my fellow council members and the public who take the time and effort to attend council meetings. These rules are necessary to permit the council to do its business in an orderly and professional manner. Mr. Alardi.
Thank you. Michael Alardi, 19 North Brookside Drive. One quick question on the ordinance about the soccer field. What's the term, the length of the lease agreement?
10 years.
10 years. 10 years, okay, thank you. On the chicken ordinance, did the town consult with Princeton Hydro for any guidance on this ordinance? The township spent a large sum of money to do that watershed plan, so I would like to get some professional guidance on the effects of having, chickens. I mean, right now it might be, 5 people wanting it, but once this ordinance is on the books, it's going to be on the books probably decades. So looking long-term, I'd like to have some input from the experts on how it will affect the watershed. I know like in White Meadow Lake, if you had lakefront homeowners with chickens, that, it says to clean up the chicken coop, but, rain will wash the chicken stuff right into the lake, which is just more organic matter. People that live along the streams, everything on White Meadow Lake is uphill from the lake. It's all part of the watershed. Anything that's not cleaned up on a very routine basis will just go into the storm drains and into the lake and add to the nutrient load. So I would like that to get some consideration before this is passed. Also, on that same kind of note is the geese problem in the township. White Meadow Lake is planning on spending some money to do a geese deterrent program, but for it really to be effective, the township would have to do it. Parks Lake is a disaster. I mean, that one goose lady kind of keeps the poop off the sidewalks to try to keep the complaints down. But the mall is loaded with them. Peterson Field, up Green Pond Road on any grassy land is loaded with geese. So the township should consider, if not this year, to put in the budget for some kind of program to try to deter these geese, because they're just multiplying and multiplying. And it just adds to the low nutrients to all the watershed problems. So we're paying it on the other end to clean the water. You might as well try to prevent it. And it's also, who wants to walk in it? It's on the playgrounds our kids are playing on, little kids pick it up on the beaches. It's just a health hazard. Lastly, White Meadow Lake is redoing the deck at Beach One. It's a $105,000 project. The township permit is $3,700 for that project, because it's based on $34 per $10,000 up to $500,000. If it was a 20 square foot deck, it's the same inspections. You're inspecting the footings, the holes, the structure, whatever the process is. $3,700, that's 4% of the cost of the project, basically. That's 4 homeowners' dues going just for the permit. I don't know if everyone's aware what the permit fees would be on a $100,000 project, but to me, that's quite a bit for a deck project, where the deck is already there. We're just replacing it. Thanks for your consideration on that. Thank you.
Thanks. Emily Coleman?
Emily Coleman, 18 Lakeshore Drive. Stop by anytime you want. I just was here tonight. I was wondering, with all the cuts that are going to be coming from the federal government, all over, what is Rockaway Township going to do, like in a mutual aid type of situation, to take care of the people who are going to be suffering from not getting their Meals on Wheels, and people that are not going to be getting their SNAP benefits to get some food? So I just wanted to put that out there. And also, I'm just on another topic, I'm just really happy about the senior prom that's going to be coming in March. That was my idea, so I just wanted to come up here and thank myself.
Tucker Kelly?
Tucker Kelly, 16 Meggins Road, Rockaway Township. Mr. Morrison, just in the beginning here, I don't believe there's anybody else that signed in, but I would ask for maybe potentially a 2-minute extension to the 3-minute time limit that you have here. Again, I know that you can make the decision, but I just wanted to put up front before my time started. Could that be something possible?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry?
I don't think so.
Okay. So last meeting on the 21st of January, in the end, there was a report from Mr. Yatrofano, our town attorney, in regards to OPA requests and OPA requests that I had made. During that 3-minute ordeal, out of the 45-minute meeting, there was comments about me making 60 OPA requests in the year of 2024. However, what I didn't hear from the town attorney was that there was a total of 1,100 OPA requests made in that same year to the municipal clerk's office. So the 1,100, what does that mean? That means on 1,100 different occasions, this administration, through the clerk's office, forced the public to fill out an OPA request to get public records that we're entitled to. Now, OPA is not mandatory under the statute, and that's 47-1A-1. It's something that has to compel government to give documents to the requester, the public, that potentially the town does not want to provide. And in many cases, and it is that case. So like the 45-minute meeting that we had on the 21st, Mr. Yatrofano spoke for 3 minutes, the entire meeting, but yet he didn't mention to everybody that he billed the taxpayers for $1,400 to prepare and participate in that meeting on the 21st. What I also didn't hear was those OPA requests that I had submitted. It's actually divulged that maybe Mr. Quinn didn't pay his sewer assessment of $20,000+. It also exposed that Mr. Brooks didn't have insurance in the Babe Ruth Baseball League that didn't protect children, coaches,
We're not
or
going to
any
talk about
person,
individuals
excuse me, at the time.
here. You don't have time to talk about them individually like that.
I'm talking to you and talking to the council. And again, whatever time is interrupted for me, I would just want it back.
No.
So these are things that were not revealed. We also had where a plumbing subcode official was working in 5 different towns while for a time in Rockaway Township, forced to resign. We also revealed through Oprah that our police chief was under investigation for sexual harassment. We also revealed that this administration was trying to force minimum wage on new hired police officers in Rockaway Township. And instead of criticizing people that are rooting out information to make it somewhat public so that the public have an opportunity to say, hey, what's going on? What's going on with our tax dollars? Like another point, if we look at our town attorney's invoices monthly, they're an average of $35,000. And when you review them, he's actually doing the work of multiple department heads that are also being paid a full-time salary, many of them over $500,000 combined. When we look at Oprah and we ask for some of the appointees or people that are given employment, some that are friends and family of council members here, you, that don't even have the requirements and certifications for that job.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
But yet they get paid
Your time is up.
$95,000.
Your time is up. So, and I apologize to the public for, devolving into this whole process again, but, this council has a responsibility to conduct ourselves professionally. We owe it to the public, we owe it to ourselves, to conduct our business in a professional manner. You, Mr. Kelly, are committed to exactly the opposite, and everything for you is self-serving. So again, there's, a couple things, so let's bring it up. We talk about the Oprahs. Oprahs are a great way to track information, right? So yes, people file Oprahs. Many people aren't aware of the process, so they do, they look it up and they do what they think is right, and they file an Oprah. As opposed, I could imagine, our administration being inundated with emails to God knows who because there's no process other than filing an Oprah. I think it's a great part of our democracy, and I encourage us to continue that process. As far as billing the taxpayers for, our legal fees, you're responsible for a huge portion of that, Mr. Kelly. That's mostly you. And as far as rooting out information for the public, you put yourself out there as like the social conscience of the town when anybody else has the same right to come and ask for our information. If they're going to you to get information, they're just going to be misinformed. You like to bring out individual things about people and their qualifications and, who's hiring who. And, listen, this is really not that big of a town. Everybody knows everybody, and if you go to a friend and, you find me one person who hasn't gone to a friend for advice on finding a job. At the end of the day, we're going to hire the most qualified people, as you can tell by the multiple Oprahs that you filed, on people's, the qualifications that you think they should have. You not having the qualifications yourself to make that judgment. You talk about different things that happen, and if we're going to talk about publicly available information, I went online and I got some publicly available information on all of the legal charges that have been filed against you, Mr. Kelly. So let's run through those. July 1998, injuries or threats to people. Was that the instance when you assaulted a minor and were convicted of that? Was that case when you barged into the house and you beat up a kid? I don't know if that was the case there. Receiving stolen property, knowing property is stolen, May 2000. Harassment, communication in manner to cause alarm. 2 instances, February of 03, February of 06. Prohibition, operation of a snowmobile. Unregistered ATV, no liability insurance. Storage of vehicles. Here's 2 in March of 08, harassment or any other alarming conduct. This is all Mr. Kelly. This is one person. Improper display unclear plates, failure to have inspection. I know you've brought up, how you feel about people getting inspections. Here's a failure to have inspection. Improperly displaying or unclear plates. Harassment, striking, offensive touching. Threats to person, was that when you licked the mayor? I don't remember if that was that case. Failure to have inspection. Here's 5 in a row, improper display, unclear plates, driving or parking unregistered motor vehicle. Another 2 for improper display of plates. Failure to have inspection, 2 of those in a row. Here's another, God, I can't, all these improper displaying of plates. Non-conforming use. Here's another In 2013, harassment, striking, offensive, touching, threats to person. I don't know which case that was. Overtime parking, driveway construction. Overtime parking, that's a minor one, we'll let that one go. Driving after your driver's license or registration was suspended or revoked. Failure to possess a driver's license, prohibited storage, excavator parked in the front yard. So again, my point is, Mr. Kelly, is get off your high horse. You're a knucklehead, all right? You're a distraction. Your time has come and gone, all right? It's over. Nobody is intimidated by you. Nobody is threatened by you. It's over. Let it go. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak that did not have a chance? Ms. Platts, please.
Hi, I'm Katie Platts. I'm lucky to be a member of both the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board. I'm actually here at the request of the Zoning Board on behalf of our board. Last year, at the end of the year, we come together at our last meeting and decide if there's any recommendations we'd like to make to you, the council. And we did this year. At the end of the year last year, we asked the council to consider creating an ordinance for us to have a completeness subcommittee. So what that means is that when residents or other applicants come to the zoning board, the first thing we must do is make sure that their application is complete. That essentially means that they have provided all the documentation, mailed out the notices, shown us that their taxes are paid, things like that. But it's a variety of requirements they must meet before we even begin their application. Many of our applicants are just regular residents. They're not represented by attorneys, and therefore some of this is difficult for them, and it can cause their application to be delayed or our meetings to be delayed. And subcommittees, as you know, can be quite helpful. So we would like you to consider creating an ordinance which is required for us to have a subcommittee to streamline our process, and really most importantly to help our residents when they come before us to request a variance, so that we can make sure that their application is complete and move their application as swiftly as possible, because even once their application is approved, they then have to wait for that resolution to begin working on their project, unless they're going to do it at their own peril. So everybody knows when you want to do something, you want to move, and sometimes they don't even get before us. Unfortunately, the council didn't take any action, and I didn't realize I was going to be here for the chicken ordinance, but rather than acting on our request as a governing body or a council, you chose to draft this chicken ordinance. And because I am on the planning board as well, I can speak on what the planning board's recommendation was. We didn't feel that it would just be, our recommendation would just be to keep the ordinance as it was. In fact, that's not what our recommendation was. I'm very surprised, and Council President, the idea that the planning board did not provide you with a response and that you are demanding a response before the next meeting, I think is entirely inaccurate. So I sort of take umbrage to that, because we take what we do quite seriously. And Dave Novak, who is our planner, is from Burgess and Associates. He is beyond excellent.
I know, Mr. Allen.
And it was just stated that he's the one that wrote the letter. He's very diligent, knowledgeable, and I'm sure your ordinance committee, I believe, worked with him on this chicken ordinance. So he was, and we met in October. Our minutes reflect that I reviewed today. It wasn't just lot size. Our recommendation was an acre, a minimum of an acre. And that's because, as the planning board, we have no decision-making authority over this ordinance. I'm not suggesting we do. Instead, our obligation was to review it in conformity with the master plan. And that's what we always do as a planning board. And as a board, what we found is that your proposed ordinance is not in conformity with our master plan. And therefore, to come in conformity, our recommendation was minimum lot size of an acre. Not as a member of any board, but instead as a resident. I live in the north end of town. Our lot sizes are very small. No matter what you're stating about you're not going to have chicken, we also have a lot of wildlife. So there are would have been seen to be coyotes. Not everybody lives in the same part of town. Rockaway is pretty diverse. So what you might see as what you're going to deal with in Fleetwood is not what we're going to deal with in Telemark. So we didn't feel like it would just be the same whether you included it or not. Second, I'd love to know the date of that memo, and it was provided to you, because it was provided to your professionals, it was provided to your council. If you were wondering what we were going to do, because that is the process, you could have asked your attorney. It's been in your possession since then. So I have great respect for our board and for our professionals. I almost guarantee you that memo is from November, at most December. There's no delay on our part. So I respectfully request that you consider our opinion. I am completely aware, Mr. Freelander, that we have no power and that it's all in your hands. As members of the board, I mean everybody, but I love Mr. Freelander, especially. And I appreciate your time, but please, if you would consider drafting that ordinance so we could have that subcommittee, I know Dave Novak would assist you. Thank you very much.
Okay. So 2 points. One, as far as the first request about the ordinance that you were asking for, if you happen to have an example or something that you can forward to our clerk. Yeah, right there.
You're looking at me?
You were just sprinkling something. If you have something that you can forward, then obviously we'd be more than happy to consider it. And then the other thing, okay, no. The first part about having the subcommittee, just to outline that. And then the other thing, as far as, the chicken ordinance, again, I didn't get a copy, but again, if we had a copy, I would have hoped that that recommendation would have been part of the ordinance. And I'm more than happy, we have a planning board for a reason. I'm more than happy to, man. Councilman Freeland, please. We're more than happy to, abide by the recommendations of the planning board. That's what you're there for. So, okay. Is there anybody else from the public who didn't sign?
Eric Wakilski. It's a hard two to follow, Tucker and Katie. Little bummed I haven't been here all that recently and to not see anything in print available to the public, or if there was, it was clearly not enough as far as the documentation
The
with the
agenda,
ordinance
did
and
we
so
run out of
forth.
agenda?
I don't know, maybe I missed it.
They're on the table, in the back.
Some time ago, maybe it was during COVID, the board allowed residents to participate through email in advance of the meeting and/or call-ins. I'm sure I'm missing something, but it seems like that opportunity has gone away. Not sure if that's the case or not, but it's, with 7-9 people on average watching these meetings out of 26,000, probably a good idea if we could extend out in whatever different way it can, information to the community. And the ability for them to attend, again, whether it's via email, ask a question, or phone in. Not sure if that's possible or not. Your elected officials, I appreciate the amount of time that you put in outside of this time. There are people that think it's a short amount of time, maybe 40 hours a year. I'm not sure I subscribe to that. Having said that, what is a little frustrating is, and I haven't done the Tucker Kelly on this to go back and analyze every meeting, but it seems consistently, if I were to go back for at least a year, that when you come to individual reporting, there's typically 2, maybe 3 people that have anything of substance. Mr. Quinn, Mr. Freelander, and sometimes Mr. Sackett. And I find that a little bit frustrating because as elected officials who are paid by the taxpayers, I would think that you're out there involving yourselves and therefore have something to report on a regular basis beyond just your personal like. And I mean that respectfully. Like, I was always a sports guy, so I would gravitate to sports. But I don't, again, I can go back and do it. I don't want to, but I think you'll agree that there's very little reporting, and I kind of question with them, what are we doing? You know, how are you helping the taxpayers? What are we getting back? And to that end, you've all received my emails for months now. We had a situation where there was an accusation by the mayor's office through an investigation where there was a person that allegedly did something that may have not been so cool. There was no regulation in place.
Would you like more time?
I would, thank you. No regulation in place for sanctions and so forth, which I understand. And I've expressed this to each one of you via email. Mr. Quinn, thank you, because you're the only one that has responded to my 4 emails. Why is there not an investigation to determine the accuracy of the mayor's statement? It doesn't, the investigation provides full disclosure to the taxpayers based on an alleged event by an elected official that we should be aware of. You're not required to create any sanctions or do anything, but I believe, again, that to maintain your integrity with the town, you should follow through with an investigation and share the results. Not with an opinion left or right, bias or not, but share the results. If it's accurate, the taxpayers should be aware of it. If it's inaccurate, then the mayor's office would have to address that as well. Thank you.
Two responses. One, as far as making the meeting more accessible. I'd like to remind the public that they don't need to wait for a meeting to ask a question, especially by email. They can ask anytime they like. But that being said, I'm open to taking a look at other options that are available to us. So I don't know if it's feasible to do, like a WebEx during a meeting, things like that, but I'm certainly open to other suggestions. As far as reports, I agree with you. The reports that, are bookends here, give us all the time, but those two are part of committees that are really the only committees that have standing meetings, like the historical committee, the planning board, things like that. And that's really what the report section is for, is to report out on meetings and things like that. We've gotten into, personal experiences and things that we've done, which I always welcome. There aren't a ton of committees that are spread out, but again, the historical committee, the library committee, the substance abuse committee, planning board, citizens rec, things like that. I kind of defer to our statesmen. I don't want to say, I mean it nicely, our elder statesmen, to continue on the committees that they're passionate about, right? So they actually have more of a committee load than a lot of the other council, because quite frankly, they've earned it, And that's what I look forward to on reports, as far as, like what's going on in sports and things like that. I always like to talk about it. I don't know if it's, if it's necessarily critical to town business, but again, we're certainly welcoming that. So appreciate your input. Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak, please?
My name is Bruce Wiener, 24111 Freddie Way in Rockaway, but it's called Walton. I'm not sure why we're in Rockaway, but it's called Walton. Anyway, to you, Mr. President, I would say the gentleman that first spoke, he should have stopped him right when he started making accusations to individual people, because that's the rule. The back and forth, him attacking you and you attacking him, this is not the place for it. As a taxpayer, I would want my councilman, the president, to not just take control of the meeting, stop. He was out of line, definitely, but it's up to you to say, okay, that's not here, that's not for this place right now. He made some legitimate points, though. I'm concerned about the police chief and the accusation. I know nothing about it, so I can't say one thing or another, but that is concerning to me. I also am concerned about the code. What is the code for Rockaway creating a new section entitled Hospitality and Affordable Multifamily Resident Outlay District? I'd just like to know more about it because that sounds like it could be a lot of different things.
I could ask administration to speak to that during their reports. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Okay. We are going to move on to reports. We will start with Councilman Quinn.
Thank you. Last night, we had a planning board meeting, and the county is going to take down their old building that's 30 years old, that's over on Dewey Avenue, and put up a brand new one. At that meeting, I asked the county if they would also look at Dewey Avenue, the traffic light off of Route 15, because with the trucks coming off and making that turn onto Dewey, it makes a jam. That intersection becomes a mess. You have big tractor trailers going in the back towards the old Thatcher building for their storage and warehouse, and now the county is going to be putting in a bigger building with more trucks for salt, and coming out from there, they have 2 salt domes back there. It's great for us because the county trucks are right here, but it also is a traffic issue. Then I asked them to also look at, did you notice the depressions on Route 80, the mine shafts? You better look to make sure you're not in that line, because Avalon and the pond that's next to it is in that line, and I don't know if that shaft goes the other way too. So they said they would look at that. They will talk to the county, and the county will talk to the state to see about that. I had already talked to the mayor, Chegwigan, about that. He was interested in seeing what they could do, because it does make a better flow of traffic onto Dewey Avenue. All right, dealing with the sport programs, the winter sports are in full blown, and they're going hard. So, it's, everybody just be safe with this snow. This is when heart attacks happen, when you're shoveling and all that, so just be careful. Thank you.
Councilman Sackett.
Thank you. I did have a few residents reach out, especially with like Councilman Quinn said about the weather and the icing. It seemed like a couple of the residents that reached out were on dead-end type of streets, and the plowing with the ice seemed to be a problem a few times. I didn't hear it anywhere else, but I know they're always working hard. I'm concerned, not because the weather's going to continue to be bad. I just want to make sure we have enough salt and all that stuff, because I know when we put it in our budget, the year before, last year, it was very mild winter, and now we have a lot of stuff coming up, and like I said, a few people have reached out, so I'm concerned that I don't want us to run out, but it seems like some of these dead-end streets were kind of maybe hit a little later on. I know one of the residents had concern they were late for work, a little later, so that was a couple of things I heard. And I also, going back to Chicken Orts real quick, Mr. Lardy left, but I had a few White Middle Lake residents reach out, exactly what he was talking about with the water and all that stuff, so I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Councilman Salberg.
Thank you. A few things to report from the Board of Commissioners meetings. First, Resolution 2025-100, resolution authorizing the Commissioner Director to execute a historic preservation easement amendment between Township of Rockaway and the County of Morris for a 30-year deed restriction and protection for the preservation work at the Ford Faish House, which was assisted by grants from the Open Space Recreation Farmland Historic Preservation Trust. So, Manny, you got 30 years. to take, yes. So, but then, yeah, so we, so we got that protection that's been passed. Second item, kind of on the same note, same meeting. Again, I'm a member of the Open Space Trust Fund Committee, and they did vote on this year's taxes that will go to certain projects, which we, again, we're taking applications soon. Just to realize, just a very, very small amount of money from everyone can really do some great things. So the total we're looking at is a total of 3/8 of a cent per $100 of county equalized property valuation. Of that, 1/4 of a penny will go towards historic properties. 1/8 of a penny will go towards the Open Space Trust Fund. By my calculations, just that 1/4 of a penny of contribution will give us probably around $1.6 million this year to preserve lands for everybody to use in perpetuity. So I thought it was a good use of our monies, a very small sacrifice for a great reward. And then finally, again, February being Heart Month, again, just to reiterate, we hope to see the administration, council, and residents down at the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association office, 66 Ford Road, Suite 213B, on February 26th. Thank you.
Now, that's a report. I know. Councilman Vutovich?
I have nothing to report.
Councilman Friedlander?
Thank you, Council President. Couple meetings, Historical Society met, and they started talking about this year, which I'll overlap probably with the mayor, Rockaway Township Day. We have a Pathways Tour, which is in the county, and we've been picked for Pathways on May 4th, a Sunday. We're part of that cycle. Rockaway Township Day we talked about, and we're also going out bid, and I reached out, since I'm on the library board, there are grants that the Historical Society received for the Fort Face House, but now the library wants to reach out for grants for the Hibernia Library. So they're going to, told them to talk to each other and just get a little information, probably help the library out. The library met, and they talked about the bathroom situation, that they're gonna redo the bathrooms on that level. They talked about Spring Festival. Let's see, what else? One important thing is Rockaway Township Library. I mentioned this once before about with the banning of the book situation that's going around the country. Rockaway Township became part of the Freedom to Read Sanctuary as part of his libraries and his towns. And right now, in the Library Sanctuary program, there are 47 libraries hooked up with that program, and we're part of it. And the Environmental Committee, that's at the end of the month, and same thing with the substance abuse, which I'll report probably at the next meeting. Thank you.
Councilman Brooks?
Thank you, Council President. First off, I just wanted to thank administration for the alert regard to parking on the street for snow. And I was just wondering, maybe we can do that like every time it's going to snow, because some people just completely forget and they leave their car out there and it's in the way of the plows. So maybe we could just send an alert out every time just to remind everybody, because I know White Meadow Lake and Circle Drive gets really tight, and it's just a good reminder, because some of us don't really pay attention when it's going to snow. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilwoman New?
Yeah, two things. I did attend the Historical Society meeting this month, which was the first in a very long time. I haven't been to one in a very long time. I was excited that it was entitled The Neighborhoods of Rockaway, and I was so looking forward to hearing about my neighborhood, but an hour and 15 minutes in, we're still on the north end, and I understand that most of our history is there, but I ended up having to leave. I ended up having to leave, and I didn't hear anything, but I did hear that they just kind of grazed over it and didn't spend a lot of time on it, so I hope they revisit that. And I know with the budget coming up, I've asked for the last couple of years, what would it take to have a blanket rice notice for all employees for our budget meeting? And that's it.
Council Vice President?
Thanks, Paul. Maybe we'll put in the budget a mic for me. I attended the Board of Ed meeting on the 22nd. It was really nice. Senator Bucco and Assemblywoman Dunn and Assemblyman Bronco came and they honored Dwyer School. Dwyer is now a National Ribbon awarded school, which is huge. It's a big deal, so that was really awesome and nice. I didn't write down the spelling bee things, but I'm kind of a geek and I'm a really good speller. I love the spelling bee. But all of the top 3, 1, 2, and 3 came to Rockaway Township. So that was awesome. The next meeting is tomorrow night, 7:30, Copeland CAF. I know they're starting they're open to the public earlier at 5:30 as opposed to their normal 6. It's not really noted why, and they didn't mention it, but just in case anyone is interested. But the meeting generally starts at 7:30 in the cafeteria. We have a bunch of other awards going out to students, I think, of character in all the schools, so that's really nice. And then last but not least, the icy weather. I got some residents reached out to me looking for an update on that guardrail on Whippoorwill and Leaf Erickson, since I have not heard anything since I keep asking. I'd really appreciate something in that regards. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple items. I said it before, and, talking about the library, Councilman Freelander, I've recently rediscovered the public library, and I can't say enough about what they have going on there and the services that they offer, and it's a lot more than just books. You can get, you can download free audiobooks with your library card on your phone through the library. There's a lot of good services there. Talking about sports, lacrosse has started, unbelievably already. They play in the parking lots first until the snow melts on the field. I understand, Councilman Brooks, that your son is coming over to the dark side from hockey to lacrosse. He will be well suited for lacrosse, so it's good to have somebody else. Mars Hills is looking to have a fundraiser. They're working on getting the Harlem Wizards to play a couple of games against the staff of the schools. They have come to the PTAs this year. I'm the president of the Copeland PTA, and they've approached the PTAs in assistance in selling tickets. The local PTAs can now benefit and raise money for themselves through ticket sales. So whatever they sell through their school, they would get a cut. It's a very, very good fundraiser. It's good for the community. The last time this happened, the tickets sold out so fast that they're actually now looking, and they have spoken to County College of Morris, and I think there's 1,700 seats in that arena, and they're possibly looking at doing 2 games. More to come on that. I promised that group that once it is solidified, I'll get the information out there. And then we were talking about the budget, so thank you, Ms. Palmieri, for getting the budget out to everybody. Everybody has a copy of it now. The process has run very, very smooth the last couple of years. I would ask the council that as you start diving into it, if you have any pertinent questions, please again email those to administration. If you feel it is something that would make sense for the rest of the council, please copy them as well, so we just don't duplicate efforts. And I look forward to another good budget meeting come that time. And that's all I have, Mr. Yachafano.
Thank you, Council President. Just one comment in relation to Ms. Platt's request for a subcommittee of the Planning Board. If you'd be kind enough to talk to Bill Dimon, I believe the Planning Board, through its own jurisdiction, can establish a wholly staffed subcommittee.
Zoning board.
Either one.
So Joe Bill.
Okay, would you ask Joe to give me a ring and we'll address it? Be happy to. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Got quite a few things tonight. Had to amend my report Emily's left. Did Emily leave? Emily left. So I did, when I first announced we were going to pursue the senior prom, I did give her credit for that. I just wanted that to be known. I did give her credit. And the health department's actually so if anybody runs into her, anybody's friends with her, the health department did reach out to the county, and Meals on Wheels will continue to be funded, which I'm happy about. I've been a Meals on Wheels driver for the township for about 7 years. So that's a good thing. Katie, seeing you up there, I happened to watch My Cousin Vinny this weekend, and I was thinking about the whole Marissa Tomei section where she's on the stand, and I thought of you when you're up there doing that. That was great. Yes, yeah, where the guy's like cross-examining her and all that, and she's like all over it, like knows her stuff. Like that's what I know. Yeah, there you go. So, and I want to recognize Lisa Salberg and the work she's done in HCM. It's kind of cool having somebody, a native of Rockaway Township, that's done so much around the world for such a great cause, and we appreciate you. I want to go through some things that occurred this weekend. So one of the things I want to recognize about the lease we talked about for Norway Field, it also benefits Norbu. Norbu needed money, and they got a good chunk of change for selling that field. So it was really a win-win-win. You know, the soccer program's getting to use the field, this new organization's going to use the field, and Norbu got much-needed money. Attended a Green Pond Fire Department holiday party this month. It was a great time. Artie and the whole crew there do a great job. Had a couple of weddings this month. We had a meeting with the Land Conservatory to talk about some properties and how we might maintain them as open space. We had a retirement. Joan Quayle in our health department, part-time clerk, retired this past week. The PAL does the Challenger baseball. We also have the Lifted Up program for our Challenger athletes at Morris Hills High School. It's pretty cool. Coach Lasardi's been doing it probably 20 or 30 years, where he has these athletes go into the Morris Hills weight room and he works them out. And it's just, if you ever get a chance, it's really cool thing to go to and volunteer. And the Historical Society meeting, the history of the neighborhoods, I thought was really cool too. I was looking forward to that too. I thought she did, Eileen always does a great job with that stuff. Jack already talked about the planning board. So with everything going on with what's going on Route 80, I wanted to be proactive, and Lisa and I talked about this, and the chief talked about this. So we've created for lack of a better term, a sinkhole task force. So it's going to be the chief, Al, Allison, Councilman Salberg, Dave Novak, our planner, and a couple members of our historical society. And the purpose is really going to be to evaluate the mines in town and, trying to determine if any of them present a risk to the public, recommend any remediation that might be done on those mines. So the task force is already meeting, they're already talking, they're gathering data. So I just want the residents of Rockaway to know we're taking a proactive approach to this to protect the public. So, and to that point, tomorrow night, the chief and Alice and I have a call with a couple of the local towns, Wharton and Jefferson, and I think Mount Arlington, with the DOT to get updates. And as I get updates, we will publish them. I published something from Assemblyman Barranca earlier today. Like, we'll publish any updates we get. We want the public to be informed, and we'll continue to do that. Wanted to read a couple things. So we got a nice letter from a resident. I wanted to reach out to you and thank the Township of Window Dial-A-Ride service. Unfortunately, I broke my leg in September. A great way to start a letter, right? I needed to go in physical therapy 3 times a week. I was not able to drive at the time because I broke a stick shift in my car. My left leg was broken. I had no idea how I was going to get those appointments and inconveniencing anyone or spending a fortune on Uber. I started to search the internet and stumbled upon Dial-A-Ride. I thought you'd like to know that the service is so valuable and helpful to those in need and in a bind. Also, the staff I dealt with was amazing. All capital letters. They were kind, courteous, helpful, and wonderful to deal with each day. I'm so grateful for Susan, Mary, Brian, Todd, and Kevin. They made a difficult time that I was dealing with pleasant. I always look forward to seeing them and interacting with them. One of the things she said is, one of the things I talked about during my address at the reorg meeting was, getting this out to more residents, getting more residents to be aware of this service. And to that point, we're going to try and We're working on a strategy for that now because we really don't have a lot of residents that use the program, and really it's out there for people just like this person. So thanks again for the help and outstanding service I received while recovering. I want to let you know of a couple events that are coming up. Morris County Veteran ID Outreach Program Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in our municipal building. It's in partnership with the Morris County Clerk's Office. There's contact information. I think we posted this on our socials, so it's out there on the social media. Veteran IDs are free of charge. Thank you for your service. And then also during that same time, it's a senior ID outreach program. Senior IDs are discounted to $5, cash only, for the outreach event. Again, same time from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the municipal building, in sponsorship with the clerk's office. So again, this is posted on our socials. If anybody isn't on Facebook or the internet, you can always call the recreation department. They can give you the information you need to have to sign up for that. I want to note that we received a silver level recognition certificate from the Avenues in Motion, and it's the Safe Routes to School, and our participation in the program earned a grant and a silver recognition. So I'm happy for our engineering department and the great work they did to earn that. And that's all I have tonight.
Ms. Palmieri?
Yes, thank you for the reminder regarding the budget. I as well look forward to meeting with everybody on that Saturday in March. Wanted to let everyone know that I will be putting a transfer resolution on the next council agenda in anticipation of the 2025 budget. The purpose of the transfer is to move monies that are unexpended from our last year's 24 budget into the capital improvement fund so that we can purchase our capital projects through cash rather than having to issue any more debt. So that's the reason for that resolution. I'll put it on next agenda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Fronte?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to answer the gentleman's question in regards to ordinance 02502. That is an overlay ordinance on the property that's currently owned by Tomco out on Route 15. It is to permit the use of the property for a hotel as well as a multifamily affordable housing project. So there was an overlay existing there with an affordable housing component, and this amended that consistent with our consent order with fair share housing. If you have any more questions, come on into the department. Also want to touch on with the mayor's report on mines. The Department of Engineering, Planning, and Construction do have a healthy file on mines, collaborated of the history of mines in Rockaway Township since the early 1600s. What information we have has been mapped, so if you have any residents that are concerned, come on in, we'll go over the mines. It's not a crystal ball, but it is a compilation of all the information that we have on file. It actually was a collaboration with our late mine specialist, Gary Gartenberg, who unfortunately passed away last year. And we also have an ordinance that was developed that basically prohibits development within 500 feet of a known mine activity. So the developer, the proponent, even if there's an addition to a structure, has to retain a mine specialist to investigate the area and see if there's any anomalies associated with the mining activities. On a personal note, I attended a recent Wizard event. It was entertaining, and the mayor of the town was a referee. So just putting it out there.
We will see if we can get our mayor to dust off his black coach's shorts.
It's been a while.
You will have a spot in the game should you so decide. Ms. Selberg, I request that you would be there too to support him. Is it all, Ms. Fronte?
Yes.
Mr. Tabbitt?
Thank you, Council President. Just a reminder to residents that dog and cat licenses were due January 31st, and we have approximately 900 overdue dog and cat licenses, so second notices are going out this week as a reminder. And happy Valentine's Day. I know it's a hallmark holiday to many people, but any chance to promote kindness.
Chief?
Good evening, Council President, members of the council. Activity for the police department for January 3106 was the number for calls of service, activity, or entries. 88 motor vehicle crashes, 366 motor vehicle encounters, 5 domestic violence incidents, 44 fire medic or 911 responses, 7 adult arrests, 94 alarm responses, 2 community policing events, 1,649 residential, commercial, or school property checks, 19 assist other agencies, and 168 motor vehicle summonses. I would also like to thank Principal McGovern from Dwyer School. Every year they have a wonderful celebration for the police department where they invite us over. They give the officers go bags. In those go bags, all of the students are kind enough to write the officers that receive those go bags letters. So I'm going to read you one from one of the students. Dear police officer, I am Kaylee. Thank you for keeping us safe and happy. I am in the 3rd grade. You help us. I hope this makes your day better. You really mean something to us. Thank you so much for helping me and my mom when somebody hit our car. You also help us by keeping bad guys away. And if you are and if you're having a bad day, this should cheer you up. I know you guys are my heroes and keep us happy and safe. And so thank you, Kylie, and all of the students at Dwyer from our officers. They love to serve our community and do an excellent job. On that note, for officers, I have if everybody would travel on the website, on the police page, you'll find a drop-down where we're going to begin a departmental history page. So any former police officer of Rockaway Township, pictures, stories, anything you'd like to send our way, we'd love to have it and honor those who have served from the beginning. And we have some very interesting pictures already on there, but that's a work in progress. But again, thank you.
Mr. Knopf?
Just preparing for another storm tonight, another one tomorrow night, and another one for Saturday. So to answer the question, we're getting ongoing salt deliveries. We got salt delivered yesterday and today. Both domes are getting 500 tons apiece. All the roads in Rockaway Township get plowed and all of them get salted. We work through primary, secondary, tertiary, so far down the road. You live on a dead-end street, sorry, you're at the bottom of the food chain, but you are plowed and salted. And we're just plugging along with winter. That's it.
How many tons of salt do you use for this, like, for instance, the last storm? I don't want to put you on the spot.
The ice storm, we probably ran through about 400 tons.
Wow. That's a lot of salt. Exactly. Mr. Dyer?
No report tonight, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you,
Mr.
Council
Heitman.
President. Fire prevention recently completed our 2024 year-end report and submitted that to the Division of Fire Safety in Trenton. They received it and approved it. On the fire department side, I'm still working through some of the grants that we were awarded last year, getting some quotes and trying to get those pieces put together so I can submit a proposal to finance and get the needed hoses that we applied for in the SAGE grant a couple months ago. So, progress all the way around. Thank you.
Mr. Coward?
I can just confirm what Al noted. I can definitely say a salt purchase was approved today. I think it was the largest purchase I approved today. And I have nothing further to report.
Yeah, I would think salt is not a place where we're going to get, conservative, so.
Just curious, a salt don't fill lasts 5 storms, around there? 6?
It's hot, so a large snowstorm all these small storms eat up through salt like there's no end, so. A longer duration storm, that's like you get through the snow, yeah, you can easily use 400 tons, which is half of the White Meadow Lake bill.
We're using quite a bit of salt.
Yeah, I just have a question. So when we make our reports and we ask questions, I'm curious, we never get answers. I've heard Council Vice President Brooks ask like at the last 5 meetings about a guardrail, and she asked again tonight, and there's no answer. Is there an answer for that?
So I think the answer that we gave originally was that there is, I believe, 30,000 in the 2025 capital budget for guardrail. I don't know that it's specific for that particular guardrail, but that is all I can answer at this point.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn by consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Those are the ones when you know.